our beloved Liberian people. It's actually a pleasure to be here. Quite a long time of being out of the air due to a great technical issue. That issue has been very, very troubling. But at least our management has been able to work beyond closed door to have this issue resolved. It is such a pleasure to be back on earth. For more than 2 weeks, we have been down. We could not bring you the favorite programs. We could not inform you about the development taking place in Liberia. We want to sincerely apologize to all of you. That is the beauty of life. Sometimes you endure challenges, but your ability to overcome those challenges determine your fate. Welcome back again, freedom fighter. So in this life, we are freedom fighters. After overcoming a great challenge, we have bounced back, and we are here to contribute to Liberia's growth. We are here to talk about the ills in society. We are here to contribute to Liberia. You know, Liberia remains our greatest denominator. Of all of the presidential candidates that was contesting, of all of the presidential candidates that were vying for the highest seat, there was one phrase that I admire so much. Not because that I support that person, but it was on the basis that this particular phrase spoke so profoundly about Liberia. And that phrase is think Liberia, love Liberia, and build Liberia. So the debate about changing Liberia, loving Liberia, has been put into full swing. With candidate Joseph Jomo Boakai of the Opposition Unity Party at the time driving the mantle of authority. He was sworn in as president of Liberia on the 22nd of January. And now he is conducting the affairs of the Liberia, one of the oldest countries in West Africa. So, okay, folks, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever your geographical location may be. It's such a pleasure to be back here. Like I said in my introductory statements, there were a couple of things that we were actually down due to a grave technical issue And since we realized that, our management has been working to have that particular situation addressed in a very timely and orderly fashion. Howbeit, the days we were actually given by our technicians didn't come uh, to light, but instead it prolonged, it overstayed. But the most important thing here is that we are now back on earth, and we want to sincerely apologize to all of our followers, those of you who have been regularly following our conversations. And we have been receiving a lot of calls, text messages about why we are not on air. And even though our OB crew used to bring you some outdoor content, but one aspect of our function was actually missing. That has to do with the indoors the indoor presentation or the indoor content. Those though it also plays a very crucial part in our day-to-day transformation. So again, while we were away or while we were off the air, there are lots of things that have been happening in our country. Uh, Lots of things have been happening in our country. We all know about the most talk about issues in the country for the last 2 months. Uh, it has always been the debate about the war crimes court, the president's making an appointment at the various ministry agencies of government. It has always been about the issues about confirmations, but most importantly, the issues about the war and economic crime court has been one of the most trending discussions in the country. Why? It is because the recommendations after the assessments were conducted in Liberia, there were several recommendations from the commissioners who conducted those assessments. There were several other recommendations that were proffered. There were several other recommendations that they laid before the government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So, based upon what we have researched so far, based upon what we have researched so far, the TRC actually completed their report in the year 2010. So there are lots of recommendations within the TRC report, but most importantly, the issues about the establishment of an extra tribunal meant to prosecute those who play a major role in the war, those who are the mastermind of the massive devastations we endure, those people actions who went against the humanitarian law or laws against humanity. That was the essence of that particular tribunal. So the commissioners went to work. Some of the best minds in Liberia. You have this man. So many other people. Those are people who serve as commissioner. You have Jerome Verdiel and so many other folks. Those were the people who did this work. They managed to convince warlords to come and testify. They managed to convince warlords to come and testify. So, interestingly, interestingly, 49 out of 72 lawmakers signed onto the resolution demanding or calling for the establishment of war and economic crime court in Liberia. So after the lower house did that, that document was forwarded to the upper house for concurrence. Practically in our Liberian setting, whenever people talk about the upper house, we talk about the House of Edias. talk about the Senate. So the document actually went to the Senate, and that document has been lying before the Senate for a couple of years, for a couple of months rather. That document has been lying before the Senate for a couple of months, and at some point in time, some civil society groupings as well as student groupings, they started, they started demanding, calling on the attentions of the Senate to actually sign the document. So last week, specifically on Thursday, the Senate voted unanimously, concurring or agree onto what the lower house have earlier agreed upon. Even though it was a tough decision, but at some point in time, we got to realize that almost everyone in this country, vast majority of the Liberian people, needed the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. It is actually important. So, based upon the Senate action, in my mind, this is actually a big win for justice. This is a very big win for justice. This is a very big win for accountability. And to a large extent, if the court is established in Liberia, the court is going to end a very long history of the culture of impunity that have lasted in Liberia for more than 2 decades. In Liberia, whenever you commit crimes and people, oh, you're a little man. So we are hearing that aside from just signing on to the resolution, which is about to lead to the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court, we have been credibly informed that the Senate also has reservations, or they have embedded their reservations into that particular resolution. So as we speak, the document is before the executive branch of government, particularly in the office of the president. With regards to when the president will definitely review and make a decision relative to the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Code, we don't know. But it is obvious that President Joseph Jomo Boakai will definitely sign onto that particular document. So like I said to you, that the War Crime Court, it is something that has existed in Liberia for the War Crime Court. This is something that has existed for a very long time. When that particular development was before the Senate, there were a lot of controversies claims and counterclaims from the court of public opinion. Other people started to see a lot of things about the issues about the war crime code. They say, oh, war crime code is not important at this point in time. Liberia has other issues to cater to. Why should we establish the war and economic crime code? Why should we establish the war and economic crime code? And some people were making it appear that this whole issues about the war and economic crime code was specifically aimed at targeting a particular individual. In my opinion, the issues about the war and economic crime code was never intended to target, or is never intended to target a particular individual. There were people who killed the Nimbadians. They too need to account for what they did. Specifically, if you look into the TRC report, around page 218, you will look at all of those warring factions. The Ulimo-K, the MPFL, the IMPFL, headed by former rebel leader turned Senator Prince Johnson, and a host of other rebel leaders. You will notice that Prince Johnson does not have the highest of atrocity that was committed in this country. Let's be very sincere. Let's be very sincere. So if we want to engage into any political discussions or discussions that is meant to nurture our democracy, we should be open-minded. We should be open-minded instead of all coming into a discourse with sentiment, or because we just want to say some other issues. So the two war laws, the likes of Senator Prince C. Johnson and Yahya Nimlin. You know, Prince Johnson, in our body politics, Prince Johnson is regarded as the godfather from Nima County. Prince C. Johnson is regarded as the godfather for Nima County. So everybody at the time was making, and most people who had an opposition to why we should establish the code in Liberia, or why the government was giving so much attention to the establishment of war and economic crime code. Prince Johnson proved every one of them wrong. Even though at some point in time, after he had signed onto the document, he had other issues to say about what are the contents of the TRC report. He said a lot of the senators conspired against him, and at the end of the day, it appeared that if he had not signed the resolution, then he was actually against that document. The war crime court issues, there are glaring indications that the court will definitely be established in Liberia. There are glaring issues that we can point to as a reliance that can convincingly tell us that, yes, indeed, the court will be established in Liberia. Initially, on ex-president George Manneh Weah, at the time, I can remember when the issues of a war crime code arise under his government. One of the issues Georgia said that he was not prepared for was the, but man, the country Liberia does not have money and X, Y, and Z people. There were a lot of a lot of other arguments about why we should forget about the court, the establishment of a war and economic crime court. We actually need to be serious. For those of you who are ever wondering why investors have not developed so much interest to come into our country, that could be one of the reasons. That could be one of the reasons. That could be one of the reasons. When we had the United Nations missions in Liberia, we had a lot of investors that came and they expressed interest. After the United Nations left Liberia, many of those investors left. Why? Those are lingering concerns that should be on the minds of every Liberians at this point in time. Why is it that we have the United Nations missions in Liberia and we have a lot of investors into the country? We have so many NGOs into the country. But after the drawdown of the United Nations, both of them left. And before your very eyes, there were glaring signs of insecurity in our country. Whenever we go to elections, you will hear another warlord just boasting that if they do this, they do that, there will be X, Y, and Z. So at the time, there was a very, very serious issue. It was actually a very serious issue. There was actually a very serious issue. Today, I admire the way the 55th National Legislature is proceeding. With sufficient time in their favor, they have been able to play their part. And to a larger extent, they play their part highlighting the interests of the people above their self-interest. For me, on that bold step taken by the 55th National Legislature, I want to say kudos to all of you. All of you at the 55th National Legislature. All of you who played a very pivotal role, the likes of Yeket Kaluba, Frank Safoko, Prince Stowe, Senator Prince Johnson, Senator Yaya Nimle, Babla Dabla, and the host of other senators, Senator Abraham Darius DeLone, and the long list of other senators and lawmakers. Those people have played a very pivotal role that history will definitely remember them for. So let's go over to another issues in Liberia. Let's go to another issues in Liberia. Uh, but let's take a short break. When we come back, we go strictly over to another issues in our country, Liberia.
Hello guys, my name is K. Lyndon Toba. I'm your humble presenter of the program, The Focal Point. As the demand for critical analysis and reliable information continue to be the appetite of the Liberian population, it is incumbent upon media practitioners to always be objective, independent, and fact-based in their reportorial duties. The clarion call for credible, reliable, and issue-based presentation must be considered at all times. In the wake of these functions and duty to service, it is only one show that stands tall among the rest. Focal Point, a program where we scrutinize, examine, and cross-examine by allowing the audience to participate by posting and calling and commenting on the subject under discussion. We bring the guests in studio, we quiz them, and analyze the issue. Once again, this is your regular Monday friend, K. Lyndon Togbat, on the Focal Online TV.
Welcome back. It's good to be back here. It's good to be back here on this test broadcast. You know, we have been down for relatively 2 weeks. Our management have been working beyond the scene to ensure that we get on air, and now we are on air. This is just a test broadcast. By tomorrow, we will have all of our contents rolling out on these platforms, as well as our OB crew will definitely be out here on tomorrow. We want to sincerely apologize. I see a philanthropist and a humanitarian in the person of Scan Johnson is also following this conversation. We want to say, and she's following the conversation from way in the United States of America. We want to say, Madam, welcome to the platform. And we love to encourage you to also do business like we have been discussing behind the scene, encouraging you to do business. You are a prolific artist, a kind of people of that. We have an upcoming program where we have on our platform called Entertainment Spice. So better still, you can develop or plan your own program and to support us. This is one of the fastest growing media institutions. We are located right in Choco community along the Japan Freeway. So there's a need for you to do business with us. And I most of the time I have been in close conversation with your teams in Liberia, Francis, Jesse Window, and you guys are actually doing a fantastic job for Liberian people. So keep it up, and we want to say kudos to you. And better still, we look forward to partnering with you in the nearest future. So let's go over. You know, over the last few months, there is something. There is this issues about fire disasters in Liberia, and for the last 3 years, we have had fire disasters in the country. But for the past 3 months, the fire disaster has not been easy. The wave of fire disasters in our country, Liberia, has not been easy. And this is extremely alarming. This is extremely alarming. If the government had turned a blind eye on that, there is a need, or there is a need for an increase in budgetary support. I think this is about time they should be thinking on how to increase the allotment that was earlier a portion to the Liberian National Fire Service. What is happening in our country is so very, very scary. It's so very, very scary. Auburn's community have been affected. Slum communities have been affected. And who knows what will happen if real actions are not exerted to mitigate this level of what is happening. Just the other day, I was in Blackie Island community, one of the communities within District 13. 2 buildings was engulfed into a fire disaster. 2 buildings, a residential building, including a church building. On this tough economy, you see your properties being destroyed before your very eyes as a result of fire disaster, and you cannot do anything. Don't we have the Liberian National Fire Service? We have. But what is the issues? Or what are the issues? It is equally important to admit that the Liberian National Fire Service is extremely challenged. The Liberian National Fire Service is extremely challenged. They are challenged. They are challenged logistical wise. They are challenged budgetary wise. In terms of manpower, they are challenged. Can you imagine? This is so sick. This is so disappointing. This is so very, very disappointing. When lawmakers in our country makes an exorbitant salary and a particular government agency is being underfunded, then I start to ask myself, where are we heading to as a country? Where specifically are we heading to as a country? As we speak, let me bring you the statistics what that somebody sent me a few days ago. Coming. Let me just give you what somebody sent me a few days ago. And that is very, very disappointing on the part of the government. So, we will begin with data on manpower. So the total number of operational fire trucks are talking about trucks that are currently operating. Trucks that are currently operating, fire trucks. We have only 2 operating as a country. 2 fire trucks operating as a country. 2 fire trucks we have. How many pickups do we have? 8 pickups. Do we have ambulance? No, we don't have ambulance. Do we have motorbike for firefighters? No, we don't have a motorbike for firefighters to be able to move freely. They have a single generator, and that generator is the 30 kVA generator. 30 kVA generator. 1 laptop and just 3 desktops. Handset is just 56 and 1 base radio. Substations, there are substations across Monrovia and other counties and other adjacent counties that share proximity with North Colorado County. You understand? In a country where you have over 5 million population, 2 operational fire trucks. 2 operational fire trucks. So let's assume that if you have a fire disaster, a simultaneous fire disaster, and where you have fire disaster in places like Mayagüez County, you have another fire disaster in Bomi County, and those 2 fire trucks, those 2 operational fire trucks we have in the country were dispatched to go and deal specifically with that issue. While they are on their way, then we have another disaster taking place right in Mount Colorado County. At the end of the day, if the community dwellers do not come to the aid of the rescues of those people, whose properties are burning, what will happen? There is a likelihood that the worst will happen. This is so sick. And this is why President Joseph Numa Boakai needs to be very strategic, needs to prioritize the interests of the Liberian people. We need to sometimes acknowledge some of the stride this government has made. Reliably, we have been informed that the 100 days commitment that the president made to the Liberian people, there are physical actions to point to that we can say that the 100-day deliverable are on course. President Joe Boakai needs to step up. If there is a way we can rally on around our international partner, let it be. Let it be. Every day that break, there is a new development relative to a fire disasters somewhere in Mount Colorado County. What is actually going on? If you listen to me from the onset, you will realize that I just told you that the Liberian National Fire Service is completely challenged. The institution is challenged. And this is with no doubt. The institution is completely challenged. The total workforce of the institution is just 785. persons. 785 persons. You see? The 785 workforce, are they able to actually deal with what we have on hand? And one thing our government needs to understand is that we have a growing population. So sometimes when they are in the process of crafting or developing policy, especially policies that will have a trickle-down effect on our livelihood, they need to be very strategic on how to develop those policies. They need to be very strategic. Liberia is actually witnessing another form of disaster, a fire pandemic. Every day there is a new conversations relative to what is happening in Liberia. You know, and I like on Sunday specifically, one of the top government officials in this country, based upon the structures of the government, he happens to be the third man in command of this country. Speaker Jennifer Fonatik Kofa, a very powerful stakeholder. His rehab residence got it on fire. What are the causes of the fire? It has not been determined. We have only been told that the Liberia National Fire Service will definitely brief the public with regards to what happened or what unfolded. If our country, and there is this famous saying from John F. Kennedy that I admire so much. And this is what it says: if a free society cannot help the many who are poor, probably those of you who are privileged to be in governmental positions, you feel that, oh, the fire disaster is only for the poor people. No. But what has happened at the home of the residents of Speaker J. Fonatik Kofa should re-energize you. All of you who are playing a very crucial role in the governance process of this country, you need to be fully energized. You need to be fully energized. And let's continue. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. Reflecting on the lost. This is what, and it is very, very, it makes a whole lot of sense. It actually makes a whole lot of sense. A prominent statesman of this country, third most powerful persons in Liberia. He presides over the 55th House of Representatives. House can be engulfed by fire disasters, a great fire disaster. Then what more? As we speak, situation, he is not empathizing with the Liberian people, with scores of other Liberians who have experienced similar situations. So there is a need for more actions, more steps to be taken. This is not about, the poor man scenario. This situation should be treated with a very positive approach that would definitely benefit the welfare of all, irrespective of political lines, religion, tribe, and whatsoever. We need to be very sincere. We need to be very sincere. So okay, let's take a short break. When we come back, we bring you another development. We bring you another development.
Focal TV, bringing you innovation to broadcasting, news, views, comments, and analysis of issues happening in Liberia and the rest of the world. Focal TV, with check and balance, we break it as it unfolds. Focal TV, bringing you face to face with newsmakers in town. Focal TV, the best online platform in broadcasting. Focal TV, located at Topo Village, Somalia Drive, Liberia. Be the part and experience the best in online broadcasting. Keep focal.
Okay, folks, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. So, the issues about the fire disasters in our country, like Liberia, is actually worrisome. It is about time that our government, the Liberian government, as well as other international partners, need to come to the aid of Liberians. Is actually important. Let them come to the aid of Liberians. Liberians are actually struggling. I get disappointed on hearing, SYZ house got burned, and there is another fire outbreak. There is another fire outbreak somewhere else, and so can you imagine in West Point, where the houses are jammed up together? They are not even fire apart. There was a fire disaster, I think last week, and 3 houses in row, 3 zinc shacks got burned. According to our witnesses, who was being interviewed by other media outlets, the people were unable to even remove a pin from that particular area. So there are a lot to talk about. There are a lot more to talk about. We will discuss about that on tomorrow. So yesterday, there was a very big program at the headquarters of the Collaborating Political Party, and as a result of that particular occasion on yesterday, several of the the newspapers carried that particular development, talking about the dissolution or the conclusion of the CPP, the Collaborating Political Party, where Mr. Alexander Cummings served as the political leader in the just ended 2023 presidential and legislative elections. So there were several other speeches made at the occasion on yesterday, and interestingly, you had the acting chairperson of the Coalitions of Democratic Change, Janga Augusta Cole. He was present at the occasion on yesterday. Janga Augusta Cole, he was also present at the occasion yesterday. You have renowned lawyer Councillor Tiawa Nganglu also at that particular event. And you had scores of other opposition figures. You were also there. For me, since the elections result were announced for a formal ceremony, to be heard, wherein people have the opportunity to end a collaboration in such a unique form and manner. It is quite unusual in our body politics, in the body politics of Nigeria, taking into consideration that they lose the elections. But again, this should be understood. This should be understood in a very, very clever way. And what is it? In the 2023 campaign period, there were several other dramas that unfolded. Aside from the election process, there were other things to talk about. Prior to the election, there were three to four top candidates. And this is why I talk about the drama. Or this is why I am talking about the drama. Many times you could hear current president now, Joseph Boakai, and being mentioned at a specific opinion poll that was conducted relative to the 2023 presidential and legislative elections. Many times you could hear former President George Manneh Weah, who was the president at the time. And another thing, you could hear the political leader of the defunct CPP, Alexander Benedict Cummings. And lastly, you could hear it about Councillor Tiawa Nganglu. According to many political pundits, we all know the 2023 elections, specifically the first round of the elections, the first round of the election was associated with several other mysteries. Number one, the incredible number that we experience, or that was engulfed into invalid vote, was a cause for concern. That was the very first time after the war for Liberians to experience that number of invalid vote. Then another thing about it is that people whose name were being heard in the various opinion polls that were conducted by other media outlets, and even in the course of public opinion, some of those names that were heard consistently, the likes of Alexander Cummings, and a lot of the people said that Alexander Cummings would obviously take the third place. But when the result came out, Alexander Cummings didn't take the third place. A man whose name was not even heard, the political leader of the grassroots development movement, Edward Way Appleton, name was heard. He came third. And Alex Cummings was way down below the belt. He wasn't even to the fourth place. That alone surprised many Liberians. That alone surprised many Liberians. So, in Liberia, we have an electoral guidelines. Which every political institution are expected or must adhere to. You understand? So, considering the fact that the defunct CPP, which has been dissolved, which was a conglomeration of the Liberty Party and that of the alternative party, the Alternative National Congress, didn't yield the kind of result they all anticipated. And knowing full well that there is a particular regulation that has to do with the regulations that govern the electoral process of our country. They have had series of backstage meetings in which those recommendations, those concerns were being debated upon. And this is what Yesterday, they came up, they came up, thereby extending invitations to other opposition or other solidarity members. So let's look specifically at chapter 5, the amended electoral laws of Liberia. Let's look at it specifically at chapter 5. Chapter 5, specifically at A. It's a review of party results. Chapter 5, section A political party or independent candidate shall be suspended. I will read that again. A political party or independent candidate shall be suspended if the candidate nominated in an election for the presidency or a seat in the legislature received insufficient support in that election, thereby resulting into A, none of the party candidate is elected, and B, the total of all valid vote cast for the candidates nominated by the party is less than 2%. Are you getting me? So let's look at specifically. So the issues about dissolving the CPP on yesterday, having a formal ceremony to dissolve the CPP, was in obedience of this particular provision, was in reflection of this particular provision. Like I said to you, that particular issue was being debated. They have been having series of meetings. It is actually a smart attempt. Yes, it is actually a smart attempt. It is a strategy. It is a well-defined strategy intended to give whoever suffers on whatever collaboration they were playing again. Because obviously, the collaborating political party in the just ended 2023 elections, they did not meet the requirement as specified in this particular provision. They didn't meet the requirement. So let's read it again. A political party or independent candidate shall be suspended if the candidates are nominated in an election for the presidency or a seat in the legislature receive insufficient support in the election, thereby resulting into none of the party's candidate is elected, and the total of all valid votes cast for the candidates nominated by the party is less than 2% of the total of all valid votes cast for the candidate in the constituencies in which the party contested. The commission shall suspend the party's right. The commission shall suspend the party's right to nominate candidate for the next 2 elections for the same office. So given that Alexander Cummings, who served as the political leader of the CPP, and looking at the gravity of the election result, he was 5 below 2%. He didn't reach the required 2% prescription as required by law. So there was a need. There was a need. You understand? There was a need to dissolve the collaboration. And let me prove that to you. Let me prove that to you. I think the front page Africa capture it. All right, let's say defunct collaborative political parties leaders calls for opposition unity to hold Boycott and Kong administration accountable and made expirations of the framework a document. CPP dissolved. The collaborative political parties, comprised of the Alternative National Congress and the Liberty Party, has marked the conclusion of the collaboration with a blend of solemn reflection and celebration. At a formal ceremony commemorating the end of the CPP on Monday, former chairman Musa Hassan Bility acknowledged that while the CPP did not secure the presidency, it successfully achieved its goal of collaboration. Yes, we know that. We are happy that the special purpose vehicle that we put together for the purpose of participating in the 2023 elections has lived its lifespan and today marks the end of the existence of the CPP as it exists on paper. He said at a ceremony marking the dissolution of the CPP on Monday. Bility rallied the opposition community to stick together to hold the recent government led by President Joseph Jomah Boakai and Vice President Joy Bayako accountable. Our vision for Liberia has not changed, and our determination to see a better Liberia has not changed. We want to say that the opposition must remain in position, and as chairman of the Liberty Party, I want to reiterate the Liberty Party's commitment to opposition collaboration, he said. The initial CPP, a conglomeration of the Liberian Party, Alternative National Congress, Liberty Party, and the Unity Party split along with the way due to disagreement over who to lead the merger as its presidential candidate. The division was marred by a bitter legal wrangling that led to a breakaway of the ALP and the UP. The LP also suffered a bitter legal battle that led to the expulsion of some top officials, including Senator Yomri Kanga Lawrence, now Senate Pro Tempore, and Senator Darius DeLone. Representative Bility, who maintains his position as national chairman of the Liberty Party, referring to the split in the CPP, said that the Liberty will not collaborate with the ruling establishment, who he blamed for masterminding the split within the CPP. We want to announce to the public that the Liberty Party is not and will not be a full government political party. The Liberty Party will be an opposition political party. Fortunately, unfortunately, those who masterminded the demise in the turbulent exercise are now in power today. We want them to know that we will hold them accountable for every action they take as they steer the state of our state. We want to know that the opposition is here. We will remain here and we will hold the government accountable. The event was attended by leaders of several opposition political leaders, including coalitions of democratic change, Liberian People Party headed by renowned lawyer Councillor Tiawan Konglo, the Movement for Progressive Change, businessman Simon Freeman. Addressing the opposition community, Bility said the end of the CPP is the beginning of a renewed. Addressing the opposition community, Bility said the end of the CPP is the beginning of a renewed commitment to the opposition collaboration. He said leaders of the defunct CPP saw it prudent not to extend the framework owing to the challenges it encountered, but to dissolve and create room for a possible and stronger collaboration. You seen it? You seen it? Challenges. But they state the challenges they encounter. But one of the grave challenges they ever encounter has to do with what I read to you. So let's begin to acknowledge those. Go Extended is following from YouTube, following our conversation from YouTube. Barihad is also following the conversation. So I think we are actually pressed up with time. This exercise was aimed at testing our equipment to know as to whether we are fully back on air. Many thanks to all of you who have been following the conversation. I want to say our big thanks to all of you. Tomorrow we will be here by 10 o'clock, and it is your privilege please follow us, and so that we can be able to grow as a media institution. Thank to all of you. So I see the list of people. We want to apologize to you guys all for for being down. Our management have been able to work behind the scene to ensure that we are back on air, and we are very, very excited. Thanks to all of our esteemed followers. It is because of you we are here. You know, uh, so it's actually good to be back. So at this point in time, many, many thanks to all of you who are following this conversation. My name is K. Lyndon Topa, and this is how I choose to wind down the curtain on today's test broadcast.